my mom is somebody who like comes to the trenches with me. You know what I mean? And like, gosh, I was probably so mean to her when I was a teenager about like certain things, you know what I mean? Like about like you replace my dad, or you know what I mean? Like all of those kind of like insecurities and like things that were just welling inside of me.
Welcome to Attitude of Altitude podcast, presented by Planet of One. We're sharing stories and conversations, encouraging and empowering listeners to be bold, take action, and be your best self, so we may be the change we desire to see in this world. Know that your attitude determines your altitude in life. Welcome to the podcast. Hey, Kennedy.
Hi.
So awesome to see you. Thanks for joining me.
So good to see you. Thank you so much for having me.
I see you got some sun. Were you out having fun?
Yeah, I got some serious sun on my face. I fell asleep on the boat yesterday. My mom wasn't there to tell me to put on sunscreen, so I didn't.
Oh, I've had those moments, but luckily, me personally, I darken fast, so I don't burn, but I do burn at the same time.
Yeah, mine goes like burned for like a day, and then I'm pretty tan.
Nice.
So that's the good thing. But this one day is pretty brutal. Of like, my mom was like, "Oh my gosh, what happened to you?"
That's funny.
Yeah.
Kennedy, I'd love for the audience to really hear who you are. So the best way that we can start is tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, how you became what you are today, whatever you'd like to share, because my theory is you can't tell what a person is from their social media posts, from some of the things, from the movies, from all the things that you do, but to actually talk to them and really hear them out. So I'm going to give you the floor. Tell us a little bit about your background and all of that wonderful stuff.
Yeah, totally. I mean, especially what you said about social media, like there's so much more to a person, and so much more also that you don't pick up in like normal everyday conversations. You know what I mean? Like there's so much that makes me that I don't think a lot of like my acquaintances would know, just because we've never had the opportunity to dive into that. I think a big part of who makes me me and my background is my family and my family situation. I am from Utah, from a small town outside of Park City called Heber City. I was born in Salt Lake City, but I'm from a small town outside of Park City called Heber City. And when I was 2 months old, my father passed away, leaving just my mom and I. My mom is a single mom. So I think if you know me, you know how important my mom is to me, and how that relationship between my mom and I has shaped entirely who I am as a human. My mom is absolutely wonderful. And I think also just growing up without a dad and having a stepdad enter the picture. My mom got remarried. My dad died when I was 2 months old, and then my mom got remarried when I was like 5. And he had 5 kids. So
Instant family.
No, literally instant family, instant like big family too. You know what I mean? Like I went from being very much an only child with like just my mom and I in a really small house. We owned like, this is like irrelevant but also interesting, I guess. We owned like storage units. So we lived in like a really little house that was like attached to the storage units. So my mom could like manage the storage units and also take care of me at the same time. But then yeah, instantly I just have 5 older siblings. And that is just such like a paradigm shift when you're a child, I think. And also having like a male presence enter into the picture is a whole different world when you're a kid. So I think so much of what makes me is like being so accustomed to like loss and change at such a young age. I know we'll get into this later of, being an artist, but that is like such a big part, I think, of what makes me using quotes, like a successful artist, or, like where I'm able to find my my outlet through art.
Is there a
is
big gap between you and your siblings?
um between the oldest one,
Like
yeah,
age?
yeah. So my oldest sister, I'm 21. My oldest sister is, oh my gosh, probably 33 now. And then the youngest one is, she's like 2 years older than me. So not too big of a gap on the latter end, but my oldest sister is quite a bit older than me. So yeah.
Was that a relationship that helped you shape again who you are, having all of a sudden five brand new individuals that share the love of your mom? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I think like for better or for worse. Um it's just so interesting. When you're so young, I think you feel so many things and you don't really know how to like verbalize those or like quite understand those. So I honestly feel like when I was like 12 is when a lot of like the loss and the, yeah, sharing my mom and having someone new, I felt like replaced my dad that I never really knew. I feel like all of those feelings really started to like aggressively hit me when I was like 12 and was able to kind of like more understand everything that happened. You know what I mean? I think I felt so much when I was little, but I don't know if I was able to like really understand it until I was like a little bit older.
I think it's
And
so crucial you're
that's a lot.
saying that. So crucial because there's so
Yeah.
many young kids that are going through changes between parents and so on, and they don't know how to express that. And
Yeah.
understanding that you simply worked through it until you
Mhm.
were old enough to begin to understand it and express it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, no, I literally remember the exact day. I like my mom always was always big on me going to therapy. Even when I was little, I was always in like, I was like two and I was in like groups with like other kids who had lost a parent, you know what I mean? Or just like something like that, trying to like navigate that weird kind of space. And so yeah, I was like in therapy when I was like 12. And I think that's when all like the anger started to come. Like all these pent up feelings, that I've always
Mhm.
had kind of started to come through. So then through my whole like 12 to like all being a teenager, I think all of those started to kind of like come out. And that, yeah, that was really hard. I think there was like all stuff on top of like being a teenager, and I was really struggling with like mental illness as well, and there was just like a lot piled up through those like adolescent years
Those
that
are tough
were,
years. Those are really
oh,
challenging
absolutely.
years,
Yeah,
especially for
absolutely.
girls, I think, in general, with all the
Yeah.
hormonal change and everything that's occurring within us. And then add on top of it all the emotional stuff that came with it.
Yeah.
What a combination.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there was definitely a lot, a lot happening. And also things where like I feel like when I was like 17, I was like, oh, I have a problem with rejection, or you know what I mean? Like something would happen, and then I would be like, oh my gosh, it's because when I was 5. Do you know what I mean? Like there was
Mhm.
like something here going on. And so being able to like parallel those to like a lot of what had happened when I was younger, or like a fear of loss, or you know what I mean? Like this thing of like always feeling like I was alone, or you know what I mean, like always kind of like a one-off. There's like so many parallels to like situations that happened when I was younger, and being able to be like, oh, okay, that kind of makes a little more sense of why this is such a like sensitive issue for me.
Was therapy the key for you to begin to understand these pieces and put them together? Or was it communication with your mom? What worked for you?
A good therapist. I have had some bad therapists, I will
Mhm.
say it. That might be controversial, but I have had some not great therapists.
Why do you say
Um,
that? What makes them not great? Just so people get it.
Right. There's kind of I'm from Utah, like I said, and there's like a big religious aspect of just like a lot. I am religious, I'm spiritual. When your therapist is also really religious, it gets a little messy.
Mm.
Like when that topic of religion has been introduced in like a that kind of way, I felt like it got a little bit weird. It became like unbiased
Mm.
therapy for me, and my therapist now is great and has helped me a lot. Um, but I do think therapy is great, and finding like if you have to swim through few like therapists, that's fine. You know what I mean? Like if there's one that doesn't work for you, you don't need to keep going back to them. Like you can find another therapist. It's like speed dating with therapists. That's okay. You know,
I
like
love that.
like finding who works for you, because not everybody are you gonna feel super comfortable with, and not everybody is gonna, fit what you need them to. And so it took a few therapists. I don't know, there's just some therapists where you're like, you are not listening to anything I'm saying. You are waiting for the session to be over and you are writing things down and trying to fix me. You know what I mean? Like I personally need a therapist who I feel like is really engaged, empathetic, like is very like on the same page as me and isn't like, uh-huh. So I have found that in my new therapist, which I appreciate. The other thing is you asked like what helped me. My mom is just great. Like my mom is somebody who, and for everybody, maybe this isn't their mom, maybe this is like another person in their life, but my mom is somebody who like comes to the trenches with me. You know what I mean? And like, gosh, I was probably so mean to her when I was a teenager about like certain things, you know what I mean? Like about like you replace my dad, or you know what I mean? Like all of those kind of like insecurities and like things that were just welling inside of me. And she took all of it with patience and just love. And that I think was like the biggest thing for me.
Isn't that crucial, honestly, that there is someone in your
Yeah.
life that completely understands that you're not lashing out at them? You're really lashing out about the things that are going through you and what you feel. And that's why she was calm, because she understood you're not really talking directly at her. And then when you spoke about the therapist, they were projecting, in some cases, their own thoughts onto you, while the ones that you actually work with well are the ones that allow you to express yourself. But I'm going to give you kudos for being aware to notice the difference and to be your own advocate in knowing that this therapist is right for me or this program is right for me, this one is not. That's a big deal. And however you arrived at that, I'm going to guess honestly it's your mom standing behind you and going, I got you, so that you could say those things. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like my mom has this really, and I'm sure again this will come up later in the acting and everything, but my mom has this really awesome way, I would say, of parenting, where she will like push me and push me and push me to be better. But the minute that I'm like, Mom, I don't want to do this anymore, if she knows it's not because I'm just like, you know what I mean? If I'm just like down, she's like, no, come on, let's get back up, let's keep going. She can read me very well. But if it's like a mom, like, I can't do this, I don't want to do this, she's like, okay, let's not do this. You know what I mean? And like always listened to me and let me like steer her, I guess, in my own life, instead of like dragging me by a rope. She always let me kind of like make the decisions, and then she was there to like support. And so I think that, yeah, that translated into like every area of my life,
Did
and that gave me like confidence to make my own decisions and feel like I was supported and had my own voice in deciding what I wanted to do.
I think that's so neat that you're paying attention to all of that, because for you to go into the career that you have chosen of art acting, creating actual short films, that had to be a big backbone for you to be able to know that you can make your own decisions. How did you decide that you're going down this route? Because again, you came from a background where you almost felt like you a big loss, and then you go into an industry that has a lot of rejection just by the nature of it, being in acting, being in all of that. So how did you make that decision to even go in that route?
Yeah, completely. Um, yeah, it is interesting when you put it like that. Um, I'm like big on intuition. Like that's just all that I ever am. And that also is like, feeling like a spiritual person. I think that's also a component, you know what I mean, of spirituality. That's kind of all spirituality is to me, is like intuition and feelings. And we've talked about that
Mhm.
a bit. Um, but I was always big. I did like theater when I was little. And my family is like a sports family. Like we are not a theater family, like or an arts family at all. Like all of my cousins are, you know, really excel in sports. And I played competitive golf and basketball. My father, before he passed, was like a golf pro. So he was like a competitive golfer. And so I was always super big into sports. I feel like there's just things in your life that just like lead you to other things. And then you're like, 4 years down the road, you're like, wait, what, how did I get here? Do you know what I mean? It's like one decision just kind of leads to the other. But yeah, I played sports really competitively growing up. I didn't act anymore. Like I was not into the arts at all when I was like 14, 15. I was like, I was playing in like 4 golf tournaments a week. Like I was on at the course on the other days. I was gonna play college golf. Like I was like very trajected to just compete in sports. And yeah, I was always like, I was like 12 and I was like, this is where I'm going to go to school. This, you know what I mean? Like going to college camps and like all of that. And I was in, I think 7th grade, 8th grade, end of end of 7th grade, going into 8th grade. I was on my way to a basketball game for my club team, and I got in a really bad car accident with my mom. And that just like derailed kind of everything for me in the sports realm. I had a super bad concussion, just a lot of back issues, and just like a lot of the concussion really did me dirty. And just a ton of back issues, and I like could not play sports anymore for like a long time. And I was that whole 8th grade year, like my friends were like, where are you? I was like never at school. I just had a ton of like cognitive issues. And then I was really sick because of it. There was just like a lot of things happening. And so yeah, sport just like wasn't really in the cards for me anymore. Um, and I literally don't even, I like couldn't even tell you why, but there was just one day where I was like, oh my gosh, what if I like got into acting again? You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna be able to like really like highly compete in sports right now. What if I like got into acting again? And I like approached my mom with it, and I think she was kind of like, okay, that's okay, sure. Like, let's see what there is, you know what I mean? Like around here. And again, like I wasn't doing anything. I was like home from school a lot, like not feeling good. And Utah has like we're kind of like a sub division of like LA. Like Atlanta is, there's like a industry here for film, and a lot of things film here. So there's acting coaches, there's agents, there's all of that kind of in here. So I just started going to an acting class. And it just kind of like I just loved it. Like I think I always had the bug for it even when I did theater,
Mhm.
and just kind of like it wasn't a focus, so I didn't do it. I kind of was like, oh, this is fun, but you know what I mean? This golf and this is like serious, this is like gonna get me somewhere. And so yeah, I just started doing it. I just had the bug for it again, and I just put a lot into it. And then I did a movie, gosh, like 3 years ago now, like right before COVID, kind of shut like everything down. And the director of this movie was such an inspiration for me. He's great. He just won his movie King Richard, just won like a bunch of Oscars this year, and he's so inspiring. And that was the first time I was like, wait, maybe I want to direct or do something behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Kind of have like some more creative freedom and propel my own journey in that way as well. So yeah, that was kind of like how I kind of got led into that, and acting turned into also directing and writing and producing.
That's incredible to be able to, again, be aware and notice the things that make you happy and help you move forward within yourself. You weren't looking outside, but you use the director to notice that, oh, this is another path that I can take. Has it been an easy path to move from acting to then actually begin producing your own writing, doing your own short film? Talk about that process, because there's a lot of individuals out there that are very creative, yet they don't take the steps. So it's incredible that you are taking the steps to get it done. Walk us through that process, Kennedy.
Um, yeah, like first of all, I just want to say also, you said intuition feeling. I'm like a big, I just believe this to my core that if you like love something, you love it for a reason. If you want to do something, you want to do it for a reason. Whatever higher power, God, universe that speaks to you is instilling that in you. Because I just feel like that's such a cruel like thing. Like, why would that person give you like such a love and a passion for something and then be like, you can't do that actually. You're gonna, you know what I mean? Like I just like really believe in that if it like is in you like such a fire, then that's something you should pursue, which I think takes a lot of courage for some people. Um, but yeah, the so I decided to go to school right out of high school to go to film school. So I'm a film major and a political science major. And that is kind of always like a controversial thing because some people are like, you don't need it. Some people are like, do it. I just felt like that was right for me. I feel like you're the only one that can make those decisions for you. Everyone's path is so different. That's why it's hard in this industry because it's like everyone is so different. You know what I mean? Like no like steps are ever the same. So I felt like that's what I needed to do and that's what would be helpful for me. So I decided to go to school for it, but I also kind of realized that like I couldn't just go to school for it and then like take classes and graduate and like be on my way. So I kind of made a commitment to myself that I, while in school, would also work on things outside of school. That I was going to build my resume, I was going to make my own things, and I was going to try to set myself up for when I graduated, not to just be like, here, I have this piece of paper, but here I've, you know, and I can set myself up to have some more success. But I realized, yeah, that I was going to try to push myself to kind of do school and other things. So I just worked on some sets. Like I would just like tell my teachers like, hey, I have to do this. I'm going to be gone. This is like a cool opportunity. And then I would go to set for 12 hours and then I would come home and do my school. And then I'd wake up and do it again. So yeah, I started working on other people's sets and then she's like, I gotta start making my own things, you know? I feel like it's all like producing, directing, writing is like you said, just like taking that step and making your own things. You know what I mean? Like a lot of it is probably not gonna be super great when you first do it, and that's okay. That's okay. It's just like all I all of the ideas, yeah, they like sit in your head and you get like anxious and you're like, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna do this? And you just have to take like one step, you know, figure out one thing and then figure out the next and find someone. I'm so lucky because I have friends who are really talented and friends who support me. And like, especially this last short that we just did, like, I had incredible team of people who thought that it was a cool idea and, thought that I could execute it, and it helped me in every department. And so that's the one thing I have enjoyed about school, or just like finding a community of people to help you. I think is the biggest thing. It's so easy to network, especially like with young people. If you're like a young person, other young people like aren't gonna make you, you know what I mean? Like you can be like, hey, I'll do free labor here, you do free labor here. This is fun. We're all helping each other and we're building a resume and a portfolio. So I think just finding other people to go on your journey with you is helpful.
And stepping out of your comfort zone to begin
Oh
to
yeah.
ask and to begin to do those things where a lot of people keep the ideas in their heads. You're actually taking the steps to make it happen. Perfectly imperfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh there's like a balance, you know what I mean? They're like, somebody could have the coolest, greatest script idea that sits on their shelf for 15 years and no one is going to care because they never saw it. You know what I mean? Like you just have to kind of like put some things in action, and there's always going to be things I think that you're like, oh, I could have done that differently, or oh, we could have changed that, but it does you no good if it just sits in your head or sits on a folder on your computer or something like that, for a long time. So I think it's just like going forward with it. And yeah, that's the biggest thing. You just have to take the first step forward into making anything.
Was it easy putting the short film together and pulling it all together? Because you did it all. Yes, you had
Yeah,
your
no, not at all. No, it was so hard. It's like the other thing I think I had to learn is like something will just inevitably go wrong at every stage. I think at the beginning I was like, oh no, like this went wrong, the whole thing's over. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, this is going to inhibit us from doing anything else. No, it's like you just cross one mountain and then you walk a little and then you cross another one and then you walk, you know what I mean? It's just like you like climb one hill to climb the next, and then one day you're on set and you're filming it and then it's done. And now we're in post production and there's still things that I'm like, but you just don't let that stop, like the one thing stop you. You know what I mean? Like you just figure out, it's just problem solving, the whole thing. Like the whole making a film, writing a script, any of that. It's just problem solving and like figuring something out, and then it works out. So it's just not getting discouraged when something doesn't go exactly the way. The other thing is like there were so many, if I think I told you this, if you had come to me at the beginning of this process and I had laid out like exactly who I wanted in it, where I wanted it to film, down to the camera that I wanted to film on, it would have all been different, and it would have all not, now retrospectively, not been as great as what it was. So like the little things that like didn't work out, this was the first time I truly was like, oh my gosh, that was totally for the better. I think those things usually take a long time to see. These were like short-term things where I could be like, oh my gosh, that didn't work out and it was absolutely for the better. So even with the documentary that I just did, same thing. There was a girl that I wanted to be in the documentary as like the spokesperson so bad, and could not get a hold of her, or she didn't want to be in it, which is like totally valid. But the girls who ended up being in it, it was so much better than I ever could have imagined. And so that was like so refreshing to see, because I think a lot of time in life that takes a while to see. You know what I mean? That's like years of looking back, of being like, oh, this relationship didn't work out, or this decision didn't pan out because this was supposed to happen. So these were like small term things that were really refreshing to see.
So this time you actually trusted the process of getting it done and the adventure of getting it done versus technical, step by step. This is how someone needs to show up. This is how the camera needs to be. You actually allowed the process to flow for you.
Yes.
And you went with it.
Yeah, it's like when you already have like, there gets a certain point where like you already have like money's invested and like things are set, where you're like, yeah, we have to keep, no matter what happens, this is too deep. You know what I mean? Like we have to keep going. So then you have no choice but to let things unfold as they are meant to.
And you made them unfold.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't get stuck in like, oh my God, it's not happening exactly the way I planned it to go.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's a
It's
big
like,
key.
no, it's like this, oh, this doesn't work out. That's okay. We have like 4 backup options. You know what I mean? Like throughout our planning, my partner Tanner and I, we would be like, okay, yeah, if this doesn't work out, then like we'll do this and this and this. Okay, awesome. Yeah, that didn't work out. Let's try this. And then, that didn't work out. Let's try this. Like it's just like, oh, that's not our first choice, but we're gonna make it work. And nobody's ever gonna know that it wasn't our first choice. Nobody. You know what I mean? Like there's even like I was studying in an editing session the other day, and there was like an angle that I like loved that didn't work out, and we had to use another one. I'm like, nobody's even gonna know that we had the one that I liked better. You know what I mean? Like that didn't pan out for whatever reason. Nobody's gonna know that. So
When are you planning on launching the short film?
yeah, so it's being scored right now, and then our plan is to do like a festival run.
Nice.
So submit it to a bunch of different festivals, and then once it's done with that, then it will probably be released on like Vimeo or YouTube.
And the documentary?
The documentary will also be a festival piece, but it's something that we're looking to pitch for like a feature. So it's like a 15-minute 15-minute short documentary, but something we'd like to expand to like a whole feature film. Whereas the narrative short is just like a cute standalone short to enjoy. So
how do you keep up with school and all the projects that you do? Because you do have a very full schedule. Let's not kid ourselves. You have an extremely busy schedule by choice.
Yeah, I don't know. And it was a kind of by choice, but also by accident. I think if like you would have told me, I don't know, I didn't really plan on like doing both of them like this, like the documentary and then this, you know what I mean? Like I shot those back to back completely. They're in editing back to back, like all of that. And I was taking, I had like quite a bit of credits in school too that I think maybe I wouldn't have done that many if I had completely known like what I was going to get myself into. But again, you just keep going with it. I don't know. I just was able to, my mom is she's so big on time management. Like she like is like, no, you can do it all if you manage your time correctly. So I think I just had, I had to learn time management and like distractions, and there's just some sacrifices to make, I think, when you're managing your time. And really though, like if you cut out like your phone and your TV time, or you know what I mean, like hanging out, like you can get some things done truthfully when you're like on, like on focus. But I also on the backside of that had to learn how to like take time for myself at the end of the night and like allow myself to maybe go on my phone or to hang out with a friend or like watch a TV show. So that's an interesting balance, I think.
So you've
I almost
learned.
Oh, sorry, what were you saying?
So you learned how to put the things that matter into your schedule instead of letting things just run your life. Truly.
Yes. Yeah, truly. And I almost do better. I feel like it might be easier to learn that when you do have a lot going on and you have no choice but to do that. Sometimes when you're like just completely free, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? You're like less productive when you have more time. When you have less time, you're like, no, this has to be done now. And let's get this done. So yeah.
Isn't that an incredible concept that having too much time on your hand, you may not accomplish as much.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
You got more focused and attentive because you had so many things on your plate and you had things that matter to you. Getting the short film done mattered to you. Getting your schoolwork done mattered to you. Being on social media, not so much.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Well,
it's very interesting.
Kenadee, what would you give as an advice to someone that's in their teens, that's still having a hard time, honestly, that they think the world is crashing around them? Because you kind of been there.
Oh my gosh,
What
yeah.
would you say to them?
Um, I was talking with someone about this the other day. I think being in your teens, even like your early 20s, like this is still a thought that I battle, that I've had more experience. I have kind of a better perspective on it, but something I still have to like remind myself. When you're so young, everything that happens feels like the end of the world. It's just like, I think just like a natural thing because you haven't overcome something like that before. So you haven't seen yourself come out on the other side of it. And so every breakup, every like friendship ending, everything that happens, every bad grade, like anything that happens feels like your world has stopped spinning on its axis. Like truly, I felt that a lot. Like I felt like, and it might, yeah, I think older people are like, oh my gosh, that's so dramatic. But in that headspace, like it feels so real. And you just feel like, yeah, you haven't proved yourself. I've come out of something this hard or this deep or, this crazy. And for me, that took me coming out of really dark places with my mental health and with different struggles, like having to just inevitably beat that to look back and be like, no, I did come out of something like that. You know what I mean? Like even now when I'm in like places like that, still I have to always look back and be like, I've done this before. And I think it's having patience, which is so hard, like patience with yourself and patience with your surroundings and your life. And like you just like kind of have to buckle down in those moments of grief, and you just will, like you will come out on the other side of whatever you're going through, no matter how big or how dark. And I feel like I was in some very big, some very dark places that are, very personal to me in my teens, especially, that I never ever ever thought I would see the other side of, that took years or months or, you know what I mean, to kind of overcome. And looking back, I'm like, yeah, that is so big and so scary. And just being able to prove to yourself that you can get through something is all the confidence that you need to get through the next thing.
Thanks for sharing that. It's so crucial for a lot of the young individuals that are struggling to see someone like you that has had challenges, yet you put one foot in front of the other and you kind of worked your way through it. You went through the emotions, you went through therapy, you went through whatever you needed to see that there is another side, and to understand that there is another side. Not only is there another side or more to it, you actually have begun something that you're passionate about. You do the arts for the fun of the arts, you actually excel in them. You're getting to write your own stuff, you're getting to produce your own stuff. So for someone that's struggling out there, for them to understand that it's not the end of life if you choose it to be not the end of life.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be like this big courageous like choice. It's like a little choice every day. You know what I mean? That like you barely muster out of yourself. Like anyone who is listening to this that is in, yeah, I promise you, I have been in the depths, the bouts, the darkest places of mental health. And that's still something I struggle with. We've talked about that. That's
Mhm.
something um I'm on medication for, going to therapy for. I think that's a big part of who I am and like a big part of my struggles. And there is something so, about when you're in a place like that, that's just this lack of like this hopelessness that envelops you. And it's not going to feel like a big courageous choice to get out of bed every day. Like you might really just be like dragging along, you know what I mean? But you there are, small things like in investing in yourself. If you have the opportunity to, get on medication or to see a therapist, like just little things that are helpful and little choices to make. Like it doesn't need to feel like this grand gesture or this like grand decision, you know, to like keep going. There's definitely been times where I'm like by the skin of my teeth, you know, and it will inevitably get better. That is life. It is ebbs and flows. It will not be like this forever, whether that is good or whether that is bad. You know, like I feel that fear in my good times of like, I know this isn't going to last forever. It is just ebbs and flows. It is eventually going to dip down. I am eventually going to feel like I did before, you know? And I now have to reference past experiences of like, wow, yeah, that was so hard. And I was in such a dark place and I somehow made it out of that. I'm going to do it again.
Is that how you're using your projects that you're creating to express some of this stuff for others?
Yeah, absolutely. I think um maybe not the documentary. The documentary was just an issue I was passionate about, but I think the short film that we just did is a girl experiencing different relationships, and it's, you know, kind of like a coming of age, and it's called literally What You Taught Me, like what every situation and every person taught her and how those depths of despair made her the person that she is. And that's huge. That's so huge. There's like, yeah, relationships in my life that I still feel like, oh man, that hurts so bad. You know, I wish I never lost that person or never went through that yada 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 experience. But I think that at the end of the day, it is having, and you're big on this, like being able to flip that and be like, but this is what that taught me, and this is what that made me, which is exactly what the girl is doing in the short film. It's based off a poem, so it's like a lyrical short film, and the poem is the voiceover. And she's just reframing all of these relationships that meant a lot to her that ended. And instead of choosing to see the heartbreak, acknowledging the heartbreak and really taking in what that taught her. And I'm sure I'll do the same thing in 4 years. You know what I mean? Like looking back, it's just being able to prove to yourself that you can make it through something. And then using that, you know, the past one to be like, okay, I did that. I can do this and keep going. So yeah, I hope the short film resonates with people and lets them re-experience their first love, their first meaningful friendship, you know, their first like intense relationship. You know, like there's just like a lot of different areas of life that are so important to us as humans and so important to like how we've evolved. And being able to have your perspective, what you've always, you know, you've taught me the whole time that you've been a mentor to me, is being able to see exactly what that situation did for you. And instead of being pessimistic about it, which I usually am, honestly, not naturally, being able to take those like golden bits of a learning experience and see exactly what they taught you. And
You used to be that way.
yeah, I used to be that way. You remind me of my mom a lot. Like my mom is like this like optimistic like I'm like, mom, this sucks and I hate this and like, you know, this hurts so bad. And my mom always, and I just roll my eyes at her every time, is like, yes, but this is making you into who you're supposed to become, and look what you learned from this, you know, and remember this when you did this, and look where that brought you, and look what that taught you and who that made you, and where that, you know, diverted your path into something completely better. So yeah, it's been like an active, I still find myself, because it's just a natural thing inside me, like I find myself in moments of weakness slipping back into that mindset. So it's like an active thing for me to be like, what does Rima say? Or like, what does my mom say? How can I reframe this? And so, you know, I hope one day it's just like comes from me like that, but it's retraining that brain muscle to think like that.
Thank you for being authentic.
Yeah.
That's so crucial. Honestly, it's so crucial for people to understand that we all go through our own things, and you're verbalizing what a lot of younger generation feels, and even some of the older generation still feels and may not express it. You're expressing it, that you do go through the highs and the lows, and you're learning, being aware every day to adjust it, not just letting it go and going down that path. So it's not that we're not going to have things that are going to be hard for us in life, but how do we bounce back and really pay attention? And you're doing it. Is there another project or short film that you think of that you go, I would love to put this project together next? Is there something that speaks to you at this point?
Yeah, I think I think every director, every writer kind of has things that speak to them, and mine truly are like when you're watching TV and there's those moments where you're like, I'm not supposed to be watching this. Those like vulnerable, intimate moments.
Mhm.
And right now I feel really connected to like the coming of age, young 20s, teens, like working through things and relationships and this like inevitable hard cycle of becoming. And so in my writing, I find a lot of that. That's, kind of something I'm transitioning into more like the early 20s. But yeah, my partner Tanner and I, that's the script that we're working on next, is just being in your young 20s and feeling like every decision you make is the end of your life. And yeah, that's just kind of what speaks to me right now. And I'm sure that will change as I get older. But
Mhm.
I just like those pieces that like kind of psychoanalyze like why is this person the way that they are, and their past and their present and love and friendship and all of that kind of swirling together and really capturing the human experience in it all.
I'm glad you're doing these projects, Kennedy, because we don't do a good enough job in our system, in our schooling system, in our growing up system, to teach those pieces as people grow and they go through all these turbulence, from their emotional turbulence to their physical turbulence, everything. So you putting it into action, into short films, into things in bite sizes that someone that is your age or younger can clearly understand from your perspective, and then seeing that they can keep moving forward. I think it's amazing that you are doing that. I love that you're doing this. And I thank you for doing this, because as we get older, we may not understand all those pieces. The way life works, you tend to forget being in the middle of it, and the feelings that go in your head and the thoughts that go on in your mind. You are able to express it. And I think that's amazing. Plus, you've gathered a great team around you. That takes a lot of courage. That takes a lot of courage for what you're doing. From, go ahead.
No, thank you. That's so sweet.
From the perspective of your university and finishing your studies, what is the favorite part about being in film school for you?
Oh man. It's this opportunity to like take it's made me well-rounded. I'll say
Mm.
that. And also being a political science major, that is just a passion of mine, and I just love every one of those classes, and so that's really fun for me. I think that's also made me a well-rounded human and like a better citizen, and better at understanding the world. But film school specifically, I think it's made me a more well-rounded creator, because I'm taking like sound engineering classes, you know what I mean, and like specific like lighting classes. Like you can just take classes in any area of interest, and probably things I would never like truly be able to understand if I was just directing or just writing. And also being able to meet other people and kind of build a community there has been super helpful. And
What's the
also
most
it's a place to fail, right? Like it's a place to like turn in terrible scripts or like do like a terrible like I was doing those two short films that were like outside of school this semester, and then I had to do a thing for school, and it was on 16 millimeter film, and it was not good, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like from an artistic perspective, did I learn everything about 16 millimeter film? Yeah. Like I know, I feel like I learned so much. I feel confident in it. Did I have the full time to flesh out an entire story whilst also doing those two other short films? No. But it was like a time for me to experiment and feel like I could fail. You know what I mean? And like do a shot, and you don't ever know what it looks like until you get the film developed. So it's like, do like an interesting shot and try this, and then it just doesn't work, and that's okay. And so I think if you let it be a place, obviously, like, yeah, you want to get good grades. And sometimes you have professors who are super stickler, and sometimes you have professors like that 16 millimeter film professors who let you fail and let you turn in things that aren't great. You know what I mean? They like know this is your first time shooting on film, and they let you experiment. And so those are like the golden classes of film school, is being able to like, and I am not one to let myself fail. Like that's just not me. I'm like a perfectionist, and I've had to slowly, I still am, learn how to fail and learn from your mistakes. I feel like that's all school should be is like a learning and just making so many mistakes. I don't know. That's been good for me.
That's growth. That's what
Yeah.
you're learning, you're growing. How else are you going to learn and grow if you
Yeah.
don't do things that don't work out perfectly so you can adjust?
Yeah. And I in high school, like I never even got an A minus in high school. Okay. Like I was a straight A student. You know what I mean? Like I was just not, and then in college, I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I can't do 10 million things and also get not an A minus, So it's like, I've had to like let myself have some breathing room on like you just can't, I can't take 21 credits of school and do two short films and come out with, you know what I mean? That's just like letting yourself have some breathing room and I'm not flunking my classes, but it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. Letting yourself be bad at things. I'm so bad at Spanish. I try so hard in my Spanish class, Rima, and it takes a minute for me. Whereas other things come really fast to me, and they always have. So it's like, it's hard for me when something takes me a long, long time. And that class in particular humbled me in that element and like taught me to like be bad at something, really bad at something. And you just have to keep doing it, you know?
Good job.
Yes.
Good job on that, for the observation and the understanding that that is not a topic that is simple for you. And that's
Yeah.
okay. Not everything is going to come so easy, and you work hard at it. What is the toughest part for you in college?
Oh gosh. Yeah, probably just those classes where you're just like, wait, like everything in high school was fairly easy. You know what I mean? Like I could have one lesson and I was fine. And now I'm like, what? Like, you know what I mean? This is difficult. And this workload is a lot different than it was in high school. And also just balancing like being a professional and like being in college. Like I don't find myself completely like in the college life and only in college. You know what I mean? I'm always thinking of my career, and I'm always thinking of how can I do things outside of my school and transition into that. And so I feel like a lot of my friends are just like college here now. And I've tried to kind of be like both. And I think that's a little bit hard sometimes to balance. But yeah, making new friends is always hard. I don't know, just being in a whole different environment, being alone, trying to eat 3 meals a day, like is the harder than, like grocery shop, like all of that, while it's like going through things is a new dynamic for sure.
That teaches kids don't rush to become an adult.
Don't, oh my gosh, no.
Enjoy being a kid.
I'm at my mom's house right now because the school's out for a minute. So I just came home and I'm like, this is nice. This is so nice.
Yeah, I hope kids that hear this, especially teenagers, to understand that this is the fun part, is that there is someone that helps you, takes care of you, versus you
Yeah.
being now on your own and in college and doing your own thing. You got to take care of it all.
Yeah, all of it, literally all of it. Yeah. Financially, like all of that. So
Kennedy, is there anything that you'd like to say that I might not have asked? Anything that you'd like to share?
gosh. I think just if you feel any sort of burning desire to join the creative field, do it. Because that's there for a reason. I really believe that. And I think that would be such a waste. I feel like there's a lot of wasted talent out there, and I feel like there's a lot of people who work hard that maybe aren't as talented as people who never tried. So I think I don't know. I just hate to always see like wasted talent out of fear. And I find myself sometimes being like, I'm so scared, and I have to remind myself of that. So
You do it anyway. Fear or not, you do it anyway.
yeah, absolutely.
What is the best way for them to keep up with you, follow you? Is there a way for them to keep up
I'm
with
so
you?
bad at social media. I need to like make my Instagram not private because it is private right now. But my Instagram is just my name, Kenadee Clark. So you can just request to follow me, or maybe I'll feel generous one day and unprivate my Instagram. I'm just I don't know. I just like my life, you know what I mean? To be like a little more private, I guess. I don't know. I'll probably have to unprivate that one day. But I also have a Facebook, actually, a LinkedIn, YouTube. Just search my name. You'll find me. Twitter, any of that stuff.
Thank you, Kennedy. Thanks for your time and your energy today. I appreciate your authenticity. And for our audience, remember, guys, your attitude always determines your altitude. And you could see by this interview, I hope you got a bunch of nuggets from Kennedy's authenticity of how she puts one foot in front of the other, scared or not, fearful or not, and just keeps going. So thank you for joining us, and join us for the next episode. Kenadee, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Bye, my dear.